Okay. All right, welcome to Architects of Change Live, conversations with change makers moving humanity forward. And boy, do we have a lot of different people on here, all of whom are moving it forward in a positive way. And I'm really happy to welcome my friend Jennifer to this conversation. We have been friends, we have worked together on projects, and Jennifer is now hot in the governor's race here in California. And she potentially could be our state's next First Lady. I want to start with that, not with her husband who's running, but with the job that you might get, since it's a job I know well. And but she's also an accomplished filmmaker and change maker, and is always pushing the conversation forward in gender with women. So welcome.
Thank you.
And Jennifer Newsom. And so let's begin with like where you see women today, because you did misrepresentation.
Yes.
We worked on The Mask You Could Live In. I know you're also doing another documentary about inequality right now.
Yes.
So where do you see women today as you hit the campaign trail?
No, great question. Look, I think women are discovering their voices. We're seeing record numbers of women running for office across the country, so that's really exciting and inspiring. But I want to focus on the fact that women are really recognizing their voices and standing in their power and speaking up and out about all of the policies and systemic issues that are holding them back from not just achieving equality, but realizing their human potential. And so that's exciting to me. So as I've traversed the state and the country and the world with not just misrepresentation, but now with Gavin on the governor's race, it's exciting to actually speak to women across all walks of life and really listen to and hear their challenges and their problems, and know that, as you've done so well and did so well as First Lady, we have a tremendous opportunity to show what's possible in California by elevating women.
So we have more women in the state of California than any other state.
That's right, 12%, right?
Right, and so we also have more small business owners that are women in this state. We also have higher poverty numbers in this state, and women are at the forefront of that as well. When you get out there on the campaign trail and women come up to you, what do they say is their issue of the day?
Inequality across the board, whether the pay gap, the wage gap, all of the policies, family-friendly, policies, paid leave, their children's education, childcare, all of those are the big issues, right?
Do they talk about the tone that's out there in the country, in politics to you at all?
Definitely. Yes. At the Representation Project, the organization that I run, and we partnered, right?
Yes.
And it's the organization that I founded after premiering Misrepresentation at Sundance and selling Misrepresentation to Oprah Winfrey Network. We're definitely in the business of listening to women's voices and trying to elevate their voices. And, we're in the cultural change business of shifting hearts and minds, attitudes and behaviors, and ultimately transforming culture. And so I would say that, women, are upset, they're irate, they're sick of the bigotry, they're sick of the misogyny, they're sick of the racism, and they're using their voices to stand up and speak truth to power. And so that's I love that, right? Because this is our time, right? And because there's so many good men too, like my husband, who recognize and realize women's potential and want women to have seats at the tables of power.
So what have you learned from being in this campaign? So Gavin Newsom is the Lieutenant Governor of California right now. I just want to say I've worked a lot with him on Special Olympics. He was really a driving force for getting the World Games here to California. We're friends, so I'm just going to put that out on the table.
And he adores Maria.
Yeah, and so I adore him. So this isn't really objective, but I have seen him do his work here in the state. He was the mayor of San Francisco. He's been the lieutenant governor. And what have you kind of learned this time out? Because you've been involved in other campaigns.
Sure.
What's different this time?
I think people are really looking to him as a leader and as an ally to show what's possible. Given that he's done it so far. When he was mayor, he was the first to appoint the first female police chief and the first female fire chief and the first female port authority and various other women in leadership positions in his administration. And so people have really credited him for that. And then he's done so many bold and courageous things that I think people are excited because they're like, okay, this is an ally and let's see what he's going to do next.
Do you think he'll do anything like we heard, up in Canada? So Prime Minister Trudeau talked about having half of his cabinet as women,
Yes.
being a feminist, being pro-women,
Yes.
not at the expense of men.
Right.
Because I have 2 sons and I'm very also believe in promoting men, and we did a film about
Yes.
men and the traps that men are in. But
Yes.
do you see Gavin doing anything like that?
Yes, and you and I will hold him accountable.
Yeah, no, I think that's
no, it's in his nature. Like, he was raised by a single mom and surrounded by his aunts and his sister. He really respects strong, powerful women, smart, powerful women, and so of course he's gonna like surround himself with the feminine in all forms. Do you know what
Right.
I'm saying? And really, and he recognizes the. California really is the future. And as California goes, so can go the rest of the country.
Yes,
and he
that's right.
sees that, and that's really exciting.
So it's a tough time to be in politics, right? You have you and Gavin have 4 little kids, and people often ask me about politics, and I usually try to say to them, if you have little kids, don't run, because it's really it's a job that's 24/7. It's tough to grow up in the political limelight. I did that. It's challenging. And so how has it been for you on a personal level? How hard is it? What do your kids say about it? What's it like? Because it's really a family commitment.
It is, it is. I mean, our kids are so young. So Dutch is 2, Brooklyn's 4, Hunter's 6, and Montana's 8. And Montana's always said, Daddy, I don't want you to be governor because then you won't be around as much.
Yeah.
Which is like, but then she's like, but I'm really proud of you. So,
Yeah, right, right.
and she's like, and I want to be president. I mean, so it's sort of this,
paradox.
yeah,
right.
it's a real paradox. And they're learning a lot. They're having to grow up kind of fast. They've already been teased or bullied a little bit, whether it's people on the opposite side of the aisle at school, or now at Montana, I would say, is at a more progressive school, a public school, but still kids tease her because she did a little Facebook Live with her dad the other night where she interviewed him. I was not there. I would not have allowed it.
They did that on their own.
Oh yeah, I mean, and Montana was talking about her hippo that's like her favorite, like Lovey, that she sleeps with every night, and some kid teased her the next day, and so and Gavin was just like felt horrible. He's like, he was like, I can't. That's exposing too much, right? She's now being punished for being a kid. And so anyway, I mean, I think it's a lot of work. It's the juggling, right, of making sure that they feel safe and heard and protected, but at the same time making sure he feels supported. And then, I have the new film I'm working on, and our work at the Representation Project, and then. I mean, it's a juggle. I don't know. It's not pretty.
And how do you keep the tone yourself? I mean, we hear so much about the tone in politics today, and really trying to hold both sides accountable to raise the level of discourse so that we're all not down in the gutter.
Right. No, I mean, 100%. We have to lead with love. We have to lead with partnership, and that orientation. I think Gavin's done a really phenomenal job of staying above the fray and just staying classy, and just trying to focus on policies and the issues that really matter, and not getting in the mud with all the others who want to drag him down into the mud. My kids aren't exposed to me, and I try and keep them away from that. I think it's dangerous for any children. But
now you posted a thing, a poop bag or something with Trump's name
oh,
on it.
I did. I thought it was funny.
You thought it was funny. So people were like, why don't you ask
Yeah.
about that, talk about tone and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was supposed to be sort of a light moment, and I think a lot of people got laughs out of it. But clearly some some Trump supporters were not happy about that, and so
do you
go.
find like it's a no-win situation,
Yeah.
that you kind of feel like no matter what you say, some people are going to be offended, some not?
I think so right now, which is sad to me. I mean, that's why I'm making this documentary on inequality and social and economic immobility, but really the film drives towards this point of our common humanity and how we're all in this together, and we have to really learn to talk to each other, and I'm trying to do that work through the Representation Project in terms of bringing different communities and people that don't necessarily look like or aren't as similar to each other, but bring them together to really understand how much we actually have in common and how much more we're alike. So, I'll try to do that. Like, I'm imperfect. I try and have fun every once in a while.
And I think that's important. I think it's important to, give people a break on both sides,
Yeah.
right? That everybody's human, everybody's flawed. I say that about myself all the time. No perfect person exists. And it takes a huge amount to step up and say, I want to run, or I want my whole family to run. And so if Gavin does win and you become First Lady of the state, what does that mean to you? What do you envision there? Do you envision doing that or staying with your work? Or
That's a great question. Well, I mean, we're going to have some more conversations if we're lucky enough that Gavin gets to become the governor. I would be honored. It's a responsibility, which you took very seriously, and you really showed the way of what is possible, right? And I know everyone talks about your conferences and how I want them back. And I'm just the biggest fan of what you did in that role with the Women's Museum as well, and the History Museum. And all the various things that you tackled and championed and shed light on. So, clearly I would want to continue my work through that platform of bringing people together around issues of inequity and injustices. My new documentary would be coming out, so that would be an exciting time. We have such inequality in California, and I know that that's an issue that you and I share in common, is caring so much about. You had the Shriver report on inequality a little while back.
We did a great HBO documentary called Paycheck to Paycheck, which really kind of, I think, focused it. We so often think that someone who might be poor or living below the edges isn't working. We have so many outdated conceptions about what poverty looks like, and what was so stunning to me was that it's so often a woman who's working one or two jobs, or a guy who's working one or two jobs, who's got a family, who's trying hard, who's playing by the rules, and still can't make it, and particularly in our state, which is so expensive.
So expensive. We have a major affordability issue in this. That's one of the things that actually Gavin's North Star, if he was to become governor, would be to tackle childhood poverty and inequality. I mean, it's like we have an affordability crisis here. We all know that,
We have a tax crisis here too. I mean, you see a lot of people who have businesses here say, I can't make it, I got to move out, so we've got to keep jobs here. Right? So there's a lot to do when you think of that.
You know what, I think it was after Gavin was the only Democrat who toured with Republicans to Texas to understand their kind of incentive structure for pulling businesses from California to Texas. And he got a lot of flack and was criticized for that, for being the only Democrat to go. But he, again, he's someone that really wants to understand best practices and wants to work across the aisle to solve these complex problems.
Yeah, and I've also worked on the Shriver report. Gavin wrote for that on the issue we did on Alzheimer's. And I think, that's a huge, we have more people with Alzheimer's in this state of California than any other state. So there's another issue because of our size, because we're the 5th largest economy now in the world. All of our issues are magnified.
Yes, they are.
Right?
Yes.
So it's... So is it, why would you say to somebody out there who's thinking of running but says like, oh my God, it's so much work, oh my God, it's going to be so complicated, oh my God, I have children. What would you say?
Well, I really appreciate Gavin's thinking on this. He's always like, it's an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity to serve your country. And I know you come from a family of service. And so it really is an opportunity. Sure, you do make sacrifices, but it's with the intention of actually bettering the world, right? Bettering the state, bettering the country. And I say then that all influences ultimately the larger global community.
So can people who haven't seen Misrepresentation, who haven't seen The Mask You Live In, how do they get it? How do they get access to it?
That's great. So the films are still screening physically in locales, semi-theatrical screenings around the world, and also they can see both films on Netflix, iTunes, and Amazon. So that's exciting.
So that's great. So if you're interested in kind of women and the role of gender, you can get Misrepresentation. If you are interested in the crisis in boys and masculinity, which I think is even more amplified than when the film came out, The Mask You Live In. If you've got a son, if you have any interest in men and what they're going through, please take a look at that. And this third film, which is about inequality, will come out
hopefully sometime after January 2019.
So that's exciting. So you're here also in California, in Los Angeles, you're meeting with people from all walks of life.
All walks of life, literally going on like a listening tour and just really learning about people's struggles, their dreams, their aspirations, how we can all work together to fix some of these problems. And then, going back to what you asked earlier, I really am engaged in focusing youth and empowering youth to be agents of change. There's so much potential there, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things I think about is obviously in the future, just to continue to figure out how we can support youth in vulnerable and marginalized communities to have access to education that uplifts them and empowers them, enables them to be leaders in their communities.
So if people have ideas for you, questions for you, if they want to join you in any of these projects, how do they reach you?
That's great. They can reach out to Jennifer at therepresentationproject.org.
Jennifer at therepresentationproject.org, and you can talk to her about any ideas you may have about any of the subjects that she's talking about this campaign. If you don't live in California and you live somewhere else, or you live not even in the United States of America, there's always California has business with you.
It's true.
Yes, and so you can send any ideas you have to her at that address. And wrapping it up, kind of finally, what are your hopes, as you look out at the next kind of 6 months? There's a primary coming up, and then there's an election. How do you stay present? How do you stay focused? When you close your eyes, what do you imagine?
No, that's right. Well, staying present is really about just connection with my husband and family and our cadre of animals.
Yeah.
And friends and loved ones, and really and meditating and trying to eat healthy and sleep, which I'm not very good at right now.
It's stressful,
to
right?
Sleep. No, I wake up and I'm like, why does my neck hurt? Why does my hand hurt?
Because my husband is running for governor. That's why.
That's pathetic.
Jennifer Newsom, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Good luck with the projects. Good luck
Thanks.
with the films, and
Thanks.
good luck with the campaign.
Thank you so much. It's
Amen.
great to be